print media had to write a write-up following that event. Now, let's take a clue from what we saw, from what we watched on the video. Can we say that former President Goodluck Jonathan, said something outside the box? Let's just start from there. Honorable Desmond Obo.
Thank you. You see, the former President Goodluck Jonathan is a respected figure in Nigeria, in Africa, and even in the world, considering his disposition during when he was the president and the last election he contested and lost to the current president Muhammadu Buhari. The way and manner he accepted the outcome of the election elevated him to a position of a respected personality in the world today. You know, the laws that govern the electoral system, or rather the electoral process, are three. They are guided by the 1999 Constitution as amended. They are guided by the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. They are also guided by the Independent Electoral Commission regulation guidelines and procedures for an election. And one would begin to reason that a former president who was there during when the Electoral Act was put together as a vice president, and he came on board as a president, and he is familiar, no doubt, with all the relevant section of the Electoral Act, the 1999 Constitution, and even the INEC regulations and guidelines. Because he has participated in an election before, he knew all that is required to have a free, fair, and credible election. I think his statement is entitled to his opinion anyway. His statement came a little late, because when he was the president of this country, he had all the powers to have right the wrongs that he observed that would be inimical to a free and a fair election. And now what is invoked today is that the judiciary, who is saddled with the responsibility of shaping the democratic process, reshaping the electoral process by way of adjudicating on matters brought before them, because the law so provide that there are pre-election matters, there are post-election matters, there are election matters. That is the reason why the election petition tribunal is established. The reason for this is to ensure that those who are not satisfied with the processes, ranging from starting from the membership voter registration, the electioneering campaigns, and even the election proper. Most importantly, when you present yourself for an election, the INEC has the responsibility to conduct the election, being guided by the relevant laws that is enabling to do that. And one is also going to look at the Electoral Act, which stipulates the various processes one needs to engage in before you are fit and proper to be elected. And here we have the candidates sometimes go to an election with fraudulent particulars. And the relevant Electoral Act is so specific and clear about submission of false information to INEC prior to the election. And not only the fact that, yes, election ought to have been decided by the ballot, at the polls, and the outcome so announced. But there are certain pre-election matters, or rather election issues, that needed to be sought out at the election petition tribunal or by the judiciary, as the case may be. You see today, the violent rate during election has since been reduced. The reason is because when nobody has such an habitat to ventilate their anger or to ventilate their differences, their observations as to their participation in an election, there seems to be the increment of violence solely because those who are participating in election want to win by all means.
Okay.
There you see a violence precipitating in every facet of the electoral processes, even right from nomination of a candidate to the election proper. Okay. So the reason why the judiciary has come to remedy the situation or to help shape the democratic process is because they are aware that some persons have submitted false information prior to the election, some persons cut corners to overinflate the figures of an election, and some persons has even went ahead to perpetuate violence just to win by all means. Okay. And here the judiciary is there to listen to both parties and appropriate it properly in such a manner that it will not cause a problem, as it were. Okay. Hence, they are playing the role they are playing. All right. Not to say that the judiciary now determining the outcome of an election through their courts.
Okay. Now, Mr. Frank Amigo, now, if you look at what's going on, it appears that Nigeria as a nation, there's no doubt that we are running the presidential system of government. And of course, we have so much to learn from the US, which we copy from. Now, if you take a look and back to what happened recently in the US, whereby the incumbent president lost the election, and he went to court. But at the end of the day, the will of the people prevailed. You know, the people's choice prevailed, and of course, Joe Biden was declared as the winner of that election. Now, for former President Goodluck Jonathan, we are still trying to look at the underlying factor of his position. Because some people will say that, okay, it appears that he's blaming the judiciary for, at the end of the day, giving it to, to one or two persons. But again, some persons will say that, no, he's trying to tell the politicians that, look, don't give the judiciary, a space in the electoral process. What are your, insights in all this?
Yeah, thank you. What His Excellency, the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, said was a projection into the future. But for the immediate, looking at the peculiarities of the way Nigeria is, you cannot totally rule out the roles that the judiciary will want to play. We know commonly that's a final arbiter for the common man. But over the years, we have seen compromises. Some politicians will even tell you, I'm going to rig this election. They will meet in the court because they are able to buy over the judiciary. So whenever you get there, you won't get justice. So what former President Goodluck Jonathan said, as I earlier said, was projecting to the future that Nigeria will someday get there. But that is not the challenge I have. The challenge I have with Nigerians, especially the leaders, is that they like to go post-mortem. Post-mortem in the sense that you allow a process to go wrongly. Then the next thing, you want to look at the immediate and remote cause of what happened. Just recently, a former president said why Abiola wasn't given that mandate was, in quotes, bad belly. But you were part and parcel of the process. Why didn't you speak up? So that's the post-mortem attitude we have in Nigeria. Not even in Africa. Nigeria is so peculiar. So for former President Goodluck Jonathan to posit a thing like this shows he would have been able to do such a thing while he was in power. It was more than 2-3 years there in power. So he should have been able to adjust all of this. Maybe, just maybe, I'm not holding brief for him.
What to adjust now?
Yes,
to adjust that the judiciary should not interpret the law?
No, like what Jonathan should have done while in power was to make sure that the electoral processes are carefully followed. If everything is done peacefully and there's no need to go to court, that's when the voters' interest will be protected. Now you have voted, the judiciary will just come up with one part of the law as adjusted that due to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 won't take place. We have had so many cases whereby the mandates of the people are twisted and the electors are disappointed. Just in some few cases that you will see the judiciary doing the right thing. In Bayelsa, about last year or thereabout, where a candidate had different certificates bearing different names. They applauded the judiciary. But you hear some other claims that the electorates will just know that this is the right direction, but the judge will just come up with one clause to upturn the will of the people. I'm of the opinion that the judiciary be regulated to the point that whatever they even say, we can come back to the drawing board as electorate to have a say in that judgment. But the Constitution does not allow for that. So what former President Goodluck Jonathan said is going to be in the future. But the state we are in Nigeria now, we must continually go to be having electoral challenges.
Now, what does it has to do with our democracy? Because we are looking at the situation where there is we also have some set of politicians busy themselves looking at loopholes, getting those loopholes ready so that eventually they go to court. So all of this, what do you think it portends for our democracy in the country?
You see, democracy is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. If such government is intended for the people need to participate actively in the processes. Now we are talking about democracy, and you are also aware that the three arms of government are the very arms of government that collaborate to ensure that democracy is properly situated. We have the executive arm of government, we have the judiciary, and we have the legislative arm. And you know, the executive arm of government proposed law, and in their oversight function and executive function, they ensure that they execute the law. Whereas the legislative arm formulates policies that will lead to the making of laws. And the laws that are made is for the people. And such contributions are derived from the people. And at the end of this law making, the judicial arm of government is to interpret the law. Whatever that the judiciary is currently doing to salvage democracy or to reshape the democracy as it is today, it is as a result, or rather the product of what the legislative arm has made to remedy the wrongs observed in the process. The executive arm itself should execute and ensure the full implementation of what has been legislated upon. That candidates and those who fell short of the requirements of the electoral process, and indeed those who want to cut corners, who have participated in an election, and at the end of the day one observes some loophole. You mentioned that it appears that some people are now looking for loopholes to ambush their fellow candidates. But that is not the truth. He who comes to equity should come with clean hands. I think what is important is that the relevant section of the Constitution, even in the ground norm, is clearly stated what it's required of you to participate in an election. If you are not qualified to vote, you cannot be voted for. If you present false information, because there are certain rules governing the electoral process, and even in presentation of one to an election, you need to fulfill all these required sections of the Constitution and even the Electoral Act. The electoral guidelines specify that whatever you do can be used against you before or after the election at the tribunal. And once anybody lodge a complaint to the tribunal or to the judiciary, as it were, as to what he observed that is not available in what is required for you to qualify to participate in this election, then it is now the lot of the judiciary to interpret same as to whether your assertion is right or wrong. He who asserts should prove. If you come to the judiciary, it is now your lot to prove adequately beyond reasonable doubt that the allegation you levied against your fellow person that needed the judiciary to look into and for him to be disqualified, you so present it. And you know that the Electoral Act so said that once a person who has the highest numbers of election is disqualified in the law court by reason of those things that they negate, the second highest person who garnered the second highest vote should be sworn in. All these are certain interpretations that are going. But let me put it clear that even in the judiciary, there are bad eggs. There is no facet of human endeavor that you don't find Judas, that you don't find people who are gluttonous, who have been nurtured with the milk of corruption to cut corners to make money. Know that you can't take it away from the judiciary. Sometimes one begin to marvel as what is clear before the ordinary man that would have been the outcome of such litigation. But you see the other way around. All these are certain reasons one will begin to look at the judiciary as being loading it over the electoral process to determine who goes there and who is not going there. But it is the mother hen that exposed her chick before the hawk now pick the chick. What I'm trying to say is that the processes that make politicians to look at informations that are damning to discredit and disqualify their opponent instead of appealing to the electorate to vote for them using the majority numbers of voters. They don't do that. The reason is because the judiciary have been so open. Some of the judicial workers have been so open for bribery and corruption to pervert the cause of justice for the people. So I think what the judiciary are currently doing today, regardless of the pockets of few bad eggs in the system, they are trying to shape and engender a democracy that is devoid of any form of malpractices.
Okay. Now, Mr. Frank Omego, now for some people, they kind of look at it differently. That what exactly does a president, and what does he want to achieve? For some people, they see that maybe he has a future political ambition. He's probably trying to pave way for himself. For some persons, they see that, okay, maybe he wants to run as a president, for 2023 election and all that. Now, let's look at it differently. Now, for some people, they look at INEC, that INEC cleared these candidates. I mean, candidates, political parties, they send their candidates to INEC, and INEC cleared them. And also, when you look at the whole situation way back, when the whole thing now eventually opens up in such a way that when these candidates are now told that, okay, you fell short of X, Y, and Z condition, the same law that INEC used to clear, the judiciary does not, go back to it. So how do we look at all this in the light of the ongoing issue we're looking at?
Okay. Talking about Goodluck Jonathan first, he has every right to contest in 2023. He's qualified. And in all fairness, what former president said was clear, that from his exposure out of office, he has been able to identify that in some countries in Africa, what we have as problems in Nigeria are not there at all. So in an attempt to provide solution to electoral challenges, that's why he said that we are giving so much to the judiciary against the electorate. But the electorate, they went out to vote, and they come back, and the court will not impose someone that they never had in mind. So what Jonathan had in mind was from experience he has garnered, which he did not have while he was a sitting president. Who can give that to him, in all fairness? So for the judiciary, the rot there is embarrassing. Even the judicial staff, they're on strike nationwide. So what I expect of INEC to do, and the judiciary, there should be a kind of harmony. They should synchronize whatever laws or bylaws that are there. When we have these controversies, it tells us that Nigeria is going to be a failed state. Though we're not allowed, or we don't accept that. So why would the same constitution be providing different aspects over a particular matter? We know that a candidate is to be cleared by INEC, and now they did. And later on, the court said that person should not have been cleared. So what set of laws were the INEC officials using that the court now has differently? So what it gets there again is the politicization of the judiciary. They will not be able to bring up some clauses that will not make sense to clear a candidate at the law court. So what we're having, some candidates, for instance, I mentioned Bayelsa, I think the senator then, INEC cleared him. But he got to court said no. But from the eye of the masses, the court was right because it had different certificates with different names. So the judiciary is so corrupt to the point that anything that comes from there, we just decide to swallow it. Because if we allow the electorates to really say something about it, some of those outcomes, those judgments are not fair. So what I see there that Goodluck Jonathan was trying to say was, we have a future as far as this country is concerned. And this is where the future should go. That once I have cast my vote, let my vote count, and let the majority of the votes cast be for the person that has won. But you get to the court, it is upturned indiscriminately, and most of the judgments given, even in the those states, we don't have to go there now. A lot of things are said that, you see the electors say, wow, why would such a court make such a pronouncement? So many things happen that we need to sanitize the judicial system. And not until and unless that is done, these challenges will go ahead. What Goodluck also said, I listened to him carefully during the program in Abuja, that the way politicians go about brandishing items, even food items. One is going on in Kano, whereby you have somebody's name is inscribed on the bag of rice in an attempt to get set for 2023. You are embarrassing the sensibilities of Nigerians. Some are given a piece of cloth with his photograph on it as a bait towards voting for him when the time comes. Those things should be jettisoned. In civilized climes, such politicians should be arrested or brought to book.
Okay. All right. So as we round up now, because we're going to be having another set of guests on this same topic. They are on standby. We have Bishop Akalame on standby, and also Architect Thaddeus Serabot there, so that we can look at this topic one more time. Now, gentlemen, I'll come to you, Honorable this one. Where do we go from here? Because former President Goodluck Jonathan is just trying to sanitize the situation, so that at the end of the day, the electorate won't just feel that what is the need of going to the polls to vote when the judiciary can pronounce who wins the election. Honorable Desmond.
Thank you. This is a stakeholders collaboration. Stakeholders collaboration in the sense that the political class, they should tighten up their organization of members and in the process leading to an election. If the politician did not go to court, I'm not sure the judiciary will have them to feast on. Because election matters in the court today is a gold mine for those handling the matter and even the judges. When an election is conducted in a free, conducive, and fair manner, I am not sure anybody with the right conscience, just like what Goodluck Jonathan did, to accept the outcome, will go to any quarter to say, let us look at it, if we can upturn it using the judiciary. You know, the process leading to presentation of qualification, or rather documents for an election, is handled solely by the party.
Documents of candidates.
Yes, your resume, your qualification. It is the party that will screen you, ensuring that they do the needful in investigating what you submitted before they present it to INEC. INEC does not have the legal right to go investigating the qualification you submitted. Read the Constitution. So when the parties,
INEC doesn't go further.
They don't go further. They don't go further to investigate.
They should.
Whether this thing is right or wrong. That is where the lawmakers should come in and right the wrongs. And those who are saddled with the responsibility of making such a law to nip it in the bud are also guilty of the same process. That is why you see the lacuna still existing. So the judiciary, they have the override to so look into what you presented, the processes that led to the election, if they are in tandem with the relevant laws that are made to ensure that this process is smooth. So you can see that they have a collaborative stakeholder interest by way of the role they needed to play to ensure that, yes, when election is conducted, the person throwing himself for election should look at his credentials, then send it to INEC. INEC will only put a stamp to say original copy received by me. That is what you present. It ends there. So when somebody now come up tomorrow to say that what you submitted is false, then INEC, in most cases you see them, sometimes they don't have representation legally. Sometimes they will just be there. They don't oppose. They don't argue. Whatever the both parties say, they don't argue. They are waiting for the law to interpret itself. So that is why you see that if the politicians comport themselves, they organize themselves properly in line with the law, I'm not sure the judiciary will be up there waiting to feast from their differences. Right. So that is the reason why I am advocating, just like what Goodluck Jonathan said. President Goodluck Jonathan, yes, he had his time. Even he was the vice president when the law was made. He became the president, and yet he couldn't do that. Perhaps he was not looking at it that way from that point as at that time. Today is out of the government. He's not looking from outside. He's not looking at the rot. He's not looking at the danger inherent in allowing judiciary to be interpreting and determining who becomes the winner in any election. Yeah, so I think what he said.
Yeah, we also need to say that because even the judiciary we are talking about now, they are doing it within the confines of the law.
What Goodluck Jonathan said is right, but there are a lot to be done, okay, and it's not a one-man show.
Okay, now let me get your take finally.
Okay, yes.
Yeah,
so what I see there is these processes or procedures should be looked into, maybe in a way that is in consonance with the modern day Nigeria. Okay. All these laws are obsolete. 1999 constitution, to the extent some persons are saying that it wasn't a constitution, it was a one-man made thing, that there was no convergence of interest to come about with that constitution. So constitutional amendment is the right way, the right direction to go in all of these challenges we're having.
Okay. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. I told you that we're going to be having another set of guests on this same topic so that we can allow Honorable Desmond Ubu and Frank Amego to have their bow on this segment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. The program is still much on. This one on our TV.